Hi, I'm Chris Maragakis of Simply Be Retreats and Therapies. I'm a life coach, therapist and podcaster. Welcome to Mindful Mutterings. Please like, share and subscribe. And as always, thanks for listening. Hi, thanks for joining me this week. I'm going to be talking about the importance of boundaries, how we set them and how we enforce them, and the difference that they can make to our life. Having clear boundaries in place can help us to manage overwhelm, reduce stress, boost our self-worth and live authentically. And that is, I can't stress how important that is, to be able to live authentically. It really has such a wide-ranging impact on every other area of your life. Okay, so what does setting boundaries look like and how do you do it? That's what we're going to get into. So one of the questions I'm asked is, how do I know I need to set boundaries? And the answer to that is that you might be finding some of the following apply to you. So you may find that your relationships are dramatic and unpredictable. This is because you're giving the other person power over yourself. Excuse me, and you have a need to please that person and a need for them to approve of you. You may feel anxious and guilty a lot. This is probably because you're not feeling comfortable with the decisions that you're making and the situations that you find yourself in, or you're feeling a little bit out of depth, or just that you always have this sense that you've done something wrong. You might be scared to say no and you don't like to let anyone down. And this is because decision making may be a challenge for you and you're scared to make the wrong decision and then feel overwhelmed by the responsibility. You know, what if someone doesn't like it? What if I order the wrong food? What if? Sometimes it might be that, you feel that you're tired all the time, and not physically tired, just exhausted. You're exhausted because you're giving away all your energy to other people, and you're spending all your time and energy on trying to make everything okay for them, or trying to get them to like you, but you're not actually using your time and energy to take care of yourself. So what you're actually doing is you're burning yourself out. And you probably don't feel respected, and you feel that you're taken for granted, or that you're not really seen or heard. That's how you know that you need to put some boundaries in place. So how do we go about that? Well, it's going to come as no surprise to you for me to tell you that the first thing you have to do is to be mindful. You have to become aware of what is going on in your life, where you're feeling overwhelmed, where you feel that you're being overlooked or you're being taken for granted. Because if you're not aware, how can you possibly know where you need to make changes or where you need to get support for? Then I think you need to find ways to create space in your life for you. And this may look like refusing social invitations, or not offering to help at events or social gatherings, or, you know, when your boss comes to you and just says, oh, can you do? And you really can't because you've already done over your hours this week and you've got plans for tonight. It's about finding ways to deal with those situations so that you're making time and space for you. And if people are always assuming that you're going to do something for them, you know, like, oh, so and so always does it, or so and so will do that, this is where you need to kind of step up and say, no, not anymore. I need some time for me. This is not a healthy way for me to be living. So the best way to do it is to start small. I mean, you don't want to be drawing a hard line in the sand or causing a confrontation. Small, consistent change will have more positive long-term impact than making a big change that is hard to sustain, especially when you're just starting out with boundary setting. Excuse me. It's very important that you do something that you're comfortable with, but each day you just need to be stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit more and just saying, you know, starting to say no. It is okay to say no. And that's my next point. Saying no can be very, very difficult, but it does become easier if you've practiced, or if you've got some phrases prepared so that you're not ambushed or put on the spot. You know, when someone says to you, oh, can you do this? Or, you know, so-and-so will do this. So, well, actually, that date sounds familiar. Can I get back and check, you know, and check it? Can I check on it and get back to you, please? Or maybe thank you for asking me, but I can't take that on at the moment. Or even, well, I can't do then, but I can do this date or time if that works for you. And once you've got these expressions or these phrases in your head, you can use them, and it just gives you some time to think about, do you actually want to do what you're being asked to do? You know, maybe you do, and that's okay. Maybe you can go ahead and do that. But maybe, you know, you just feel that all too often people will just assume that you'll do stuff, or you get forced into situations that you don't want to be in. And these expressions and phrases that you already have prepared, you're not lying, but what you're doing is you're giving yourself some space to think and maneuver yourself out of the situation. Communicate clearly, using kind and compassionate language to explain why you can't or don't want to do something is so very important. The biggest problem, one of the biggest barriers when we communicate with people is, firstly, the majority of people, and this is a generalization, but the majority of people listen to respond. They don't listen to learn. And as you're talking, excuse me, they're already coming up in their head with an answer or what they want to say or how they want to show you that they know what you're talking about. And so you've got to phrase what you're saying in a manner that they will actually listen and pay attention. You've got to use the language that is non-inflammatory. You don't want to be saying, and you always do this, and you put me here, because people get defensive and then they're not listening to you either. So it's about saying, sometimes I feel a little bit overwhelmed, or sometimes I feel that I'm taken for granted, or sometimes I feel that I'm not giving a choice in things. You know, you are an amazing, fantastic human being with, you know, a spirit and conscience and free will. And so you are entitled, you are allowed to be the person that you want, and you deserve to be respected. But for some people, you need to put those boundaries back in place and just give them a little reminder. And so it's using language that they can relate to, that is very clear and concise, that is always kind and compassionate. You don't want to put the blame on anyone else, and you do need to be open to compromise, because sometimes, you know, sometimes a compromise will come out of a situation that actually both parties are happy in, and that you grow from the experience. You know, it might be that you feel like you're being pushed into something, but when the compromise has happened and you've done the event, or you've done whatever it is you're being asked to do, that actually it turned out to be fantastic. So don't ever go into anything with a closed mind. Always be open to possibility. But by the same token, when you absolutely know that you're right, or that you don't want to do something, and every part of your being is screaming at you to say no, stand your ground. You know, stand your ground kindly and compassionately, and state your argument. And if that's something that you really struggle with, then maybe you could do with some extra help and support around self-confidence or self-worth or communication, in which case, please get in touch. So these are some of the ways that you can start to put boundaries in place. When we have boundaries, and when they're kindly enforced, what we're actually demonstrating to ourselves and everyone else is that we have respect for ourselves and we prioritise our well-being. And so others have no choice but to do the same. And so what that will do is reduce your feelings of overwhelm, anxiety and guilt. And when everyone knows where they stand, where there's clear boundaries, and like I said, they're not hard lines in the sand, but it's just like, well, you can push me this far, but then when you get to here, we need to have a serious conversation. You know, this will then go on to improve your relationships and your finances and your problem solving abilities, and ultimately your confidence. And there is no need for you to feel guilty about putting boundaries in place. Boundaries are an essential part of our life. They stop people taking advantage of us. They stop us from ending up in abusive relationships and situations, and they empower us to live the life that we want to do. And as long as the communication is clear, and the way that we enforce our boundaries is considerate and compassionate, you have absolutely every right to make your life the way you want it to be. So, as always, if you would like support with boundary setting and the confidence and self-esteem and everything that goes around that, and ultimately taking control of your life, then please get in touch. You can contact me via the website, which is simplybe.org.uk, or you can email me on cm@simplybe.org.uk, or you can get in touch via the phone 07974 618 499. So whatever you do, whatever you choose to do with your life, make sure that it is on your terms and you are empowering yourself, and that way you empower everyone else around you. So thank you very much for listening. Have a fabulous week, and I hope you'll join me for the next one next week. Take care. Bye.